Greetings, and well, excuse me. Just a second. I guess let me cough for a minute. Okay, so problems going live, huh? Can't edit out the coughing or anything like that. Anyways, greetings and welcome to my channel. This is Sorcerer Tal, and as I promised, we're going live on Wednesday. However, it's raining outside, so we're gonna be down here. The good thing about that is that I'll be able to see whatever you guys are having to say. I don't have a whole lot planned as to what we're going to be talking about today necessarily. I do have a few things. One, there is going to be another step in the S1 sigil project. We have another sigil coming up, and it's actually just going to be using the servitor sigil that has been on my altar. Apparently, I wasn't just training an altar, but more I was raising up a thing. Yeah, raising up, I don't know, I don't really want to call it a servitor, but it was the thing that I have been growing on my altar, that I've been calling my altar servitor, is going to be used to be spread out over our reality, and so that means it's going to be becoming a shared sigil that we will all start working with from this point forward, similar to how we were doing using the S1 sigil. But I will do a full video on that a little bit later. Right now, I'm just hanging out Sunday night. Like I said, we was gonna go for a walk, but it's raining so bad that there's not much point in that. I'll play my flute for a little while. If you guys have any questions you'd like to ask me, like I said, I don't have a whole lot planned. Just play for a minute here. Hold on. I posted on Facebook that we're going to be doing this as well, so hopefully we'll get a few more people joining us soon. And like I said, we are going to keep doing this every Sunday. We will need to agree on a time, yeah? So that we actually can start meeting at the same time on these days. I would try to be a little bit more prepared. This whole live thing is still quite new to me, as you all know. But, let's see. Oh, I'm trying to tell you is backwards. Well, there's something to talk about. Just a moment. Oh. Oh, that's right. I need to re-put the, still a little more work to do with him. Oh, I can't get it off of here. How did that wind up happening? Anyways, this is Manatelu's new incarnate. Obviously, it's not quite finished because he still needs the crossroads. Well, that's not the normal word for it. That's how we're treating it as. He still needs the X piece, whatever that's called at the top. Still need to make one of those, and that'll attach to all these different body parts. And this is Manatelyu, as I have discussed in, this is Manatelyu's new body, as I've discussed in previous videos, the marionette that has actually wandered off before. Like, I don't know where his original marionette body is. It just disappeared. Like, wandered off. He... Before he wandered off, he actually did, like, move around all over the altar. I'd find him in strange places. If I put him in boxes, I'd find him outside of boxes. He really didn't like being in boxes. That's why he is in the situation he is in now, hanging up there, totally free. Now, if you didn't read the story, Manatelyu is an evolved spirit. He went through several processes, kind of like the servitor minion, like I just meant, like I was talking about a while ago. Manatelyu, man, I tell you, he's a messenger spirit. Actually, started out as a very simple tulpa. Simply, I had this idea that there was a little messenger spirit that would tell me if anyone was at my camp, because I was homeless at the time. I was 18 years old, so this was quite a while ago. Anyways, I was living homeless down in Florida, and I needed something to tell me if anybody got near my tent. So I made this little man I tell you to come tell me, man, if somebody's messing with my tent. And it worked quite well. I never had any problems there, but he informed, as far as people getting into my tent, I never actually had that happen. But he did inform me about several other things that were going on, most often in dreams. And then, over time, I wanted Manatelyu to have a better vessel. So when I got back here to Utah, later on, I created a bottle type egregore, which is the ones that you put all the different components inside of a vessel along with an independent life force and allow that to be the vessel which your egregore then, rather than a tulpa, exists in. And then from there, I had him in that state for quite a while. And then I just one day felt the need that he needed to be put into something else. And we eventually settled on a marionette. And I made the first marionette, which I unfortunately never took any good pictures of. I do have some video somewhere I might be able to find a copy of me using him a bit. But anyways, from there we had the marionette, and I had that for a while. Took him for quite a few things. I even used him with clients to help find out different things and do messages with him. And he kept wandering around. And at one point, I guess, just wandered off. Yeah? And then I didn't have him for a while. Because, well, he wandered off. And that, I occasionally had dreams about him. Like, he'd check in, essentially. It was like, a kid that left. Comes back home to do his laundry and stuff like that. So I'd have dreams about him occasionally. Up until the point that, my cousin died. And just before he died, Manatelyu came to tell me about it. It was actually a very interesting dream. I dreamed that Manatelyu came to me, and he brought me to this cave of bones, and there was this light inside the cave, and we watched the light leave. He's like, okay, well, he's leaving this reality. Me and my cousin, quite frankly, we were not, well, we certainly weren't close. Yeah, I don't want to go speaking ill of the dead. There's no point to bring all that up now, but we were not close. And Manatelyu was essentially letting me know someone who would wished me harm had been removed and was not going to be a problem in my reality anymore. And I pretty much knew who he meant. I understood what had happened. And when I woke up and was told that my cousin Marv was dead, Well, I wasn't surprised because I'd just been told already. Anyways, after that, he began contacting me again on a regular basis, and we agreed that it was time for him to have a new body. I don't know if it was my cousin dying that facilitated contact, because we did have other dreams during that period, but that was definitely the most intense. And I don't know if it was because he had something important to tell me, or maybe that other body, wherever it was, had finally gotten destroyed. And so he needed a new body. And like I said, it's like your kid that moved out coming home when he needs to do laundry or something, right? He needed something. So here he is again with his new body. Still needs the cross piece, whatever you call that square on the top when you make a marionette. And I've given him a little pendulum to work with here. But there will be more to go on that. We're going to do another video on that, because that's another spirit that he's going through another evolutionary process, because he wants to become a shared being as well. So I am going to design a system where we all can start working with Manatellu, so that he can bring us all messages. Yeah, he's strong enough, he can work for more than just me. And maybe even we will see if he can devise a way. Hi, Felix. Yeah, maybe we can devise a way to actually test to see if this spirit can deliver messages from one of us, like from me to one of you and back. See if we can actually develop a means of communication. I haven't completely worked out how that's going to be yet, so that's why I haven't talked about it much. But I do know it'll involve dropping a dime for Manatellu. So that means that that'll be part of the working, is dropping a dime. My thoughts on Hermeticism. It's not an area I've actually worked with a whole lot. Not enough for me to really feel confident in giving out a lot of information off the top of my head about it. It is a very useful system. There is a lot of, one of the things I like about Hermeticism is that it is a little more scientific in its approach to magic, kind of like alchemy. Though for me, actually, since that's my closest understanding of that, is what I call true alchemy. Okay, and now that's just, it makes me sound so snobby. But when I speak of alchemy, I'm not talking about some soul transformation process, this inner alchemy. To me, alchemy is the science of magic. Yeah, it is, they divide it. Because that is one of the biggest mistakes humans have made, in my opinion, is the dividing of these two things into magic and science. Why do they have to be separate? Okay, they don't. Yeah? In order for things to work properly, we should be combining the two. And that's the appeal of alchemy, Hermeticism, anything like that to me, is that we are still trying, we're still trying to work within the two systems. We have this science that's verifiably true and working primarily on the material plane. And then we have the magic side that can't be as verified. And that's, and between these two is where true power is. Exactly. It's an arbitrarily limiting division of paradigms. It is, there's no reason for it. And the thing is magic, or excuse me, now I'm going off. Science is aware of these effects, yeah? And that's why we can't actually repeat the same experiment twice. Not when we're dealing with these types of things. In a material plane, yes, you can make everything as precise as you can. But even then, quantum physics tells us no two situations is exactly the same. There will be minute variables that differ every time. You can't actually set up the same experiment twice. You cannot repeat anything. Not according to quantum physics, not truly according to science, you can't do it. But anyways, I'm getting a little bit off the subject there. I was more wanting to get into the idea of the placebo effect, and that science knows that faith has a power. Yeah? Either faith healing is real, or the placebo effect isn't. Yeah? And therein lies the whole problem with this idea of magic science split, is because we have this idea of the placebo effect, which they verified. They figured out, oh my gosh, if people think they're getting better, if they've used the theater of surgery to perform ritual without actually giving them medicine, other than a sugar pill or even whatever, you can convince these people and they start getting a little bit better. But because science doesn't want to accept this, because it's not something they can verifiably reproduce over time, rather than working with it, rather than working with this idea and be like, wow, the theater of surgery is powerful in and of itself, we should work that into this. Instead, they go, well, we gotta fucking push this out of here. We gotta get rid of this. We gotta do everything we can to negate this powerful aspect of what's possible. I mean, it's not on its own, yeah, right? This isn't, especially with healing, this isn't something that should be done all magic. It shouldn't all be belief in parts reality. But we shouldn't throw that out. It's ridiculous to throw it out. And there's no reason for it, other than that we are trying to separate magic and science into two separate things. I'm going to bring this up over here so I've seen a few of you say some things, but I can't actually see what you said. Let me see if I can pull up my own live. Let me see if I can watch my own video here, and that'll help. Let me see if I can watch my own video here, and that'll help. Oh, I better mute me. Oh, yeah. It is going to be an awesome experiment, that back there with Manatellu. I'm looking forward to that. Exactly. Now, the placebo effect varies depending on how you do, depending on method. So, yeah, that's what you said, right? In strength depending on method of delivery. And that is exactly it. So we should be studying this. We should be getting ahead of that fact and using this. That makes sense. That injections would get stronger effects than pills. That makes a lot of sense. And because there's an extra layer. There's the pain. I had something put into me. It affected my body on a physical level. And therefore, my body is going to believe more that it worked. The same thing with actually washing your hands to end a situation. Yeah, to help your mind get out of a situation. The simple washing of your hands. We have this sense memory of, well, when I wash my hands after I do something. So that means that thing is over. But that's more important with this idea of an injection, because we very much have this idea that if we inject it, something happens. And our body has that idea. It has this idea that it's supposed to respond to an injection. So we could study this. We could find out what things cause the best psychological triggers. And of course, they're going to be different in each person. Just like the same spell doesn't work the same on every person. But we could study it. We could find out about different things about these different people and strengthen this idea. And if we combine that with actual antibiotics or synthesized medications, Western medicine, these two things combined can be much more powerful than they ever have been separate. But anyways, that brings me on to another idea. The nocebo, which is the opposite of the placebo. The nocebo is you tell somebody they're going to get sick, and they get sick. Yeah? This is real as well. In fact, this is one of the primary components to why I like someone to know if I'm cursing them. Yeah, I don't resort to cursing very often. I try not to do those sorts of things. But if I do curse somebody, I want them to know. I very much want them to know, because this same idea, you want to get it into their mind that they are cursed, because they can do a lot more harm to themselves than you could ever do. They have a much better angle. So if you can convince them that they are cursed and get that nocebo effect going, then it's going to work. And this is something else that has been completely verified. There have been quite a few people that have died simply because they thought they were going to die. Like Zig Ziglar. Now, I don't know. I've never actually verified this, but if you're familiar with who Zig Ziglar is, he talked about a guy that froze to death inside a freezer car of a train that wasn't even on. Yeah. He just thought he was going to freeze to death, so he did. Yeah, I've done that before too. I actually have convinced myself so much I was sick that by the time I went to the nurse at the school, yeah, I was sick. And wasn't able to enjoy getting out of school because now I'm really sick. So this, yeah, that's exactly it. That's that nocebo effect at work. But yeah, it is a very powerful tool. Like I said, there's that guy that froze himself to death. I don't know if that one's real, but there is definitely a documented case of an Aboriginal guy that they have I don't know what tribe. People often talk about Aborigines as if they're all one group, and I hate that. I am speaking as part Native American. See, that's the same thing. I am part Ojibwe. Yeah, that's what I'm part. Just like people from Ireland aren't part European, they're part Irish. I don't know. I'm getting off. I'm getting off on a totally different subject. Okay. So, anyways, whatever people these guys were from that were living in Australia, one of the men was punished, and they have a stick that they believe they point this stick at you, and they point it at you, you're gonna die, and they all believe it. And that's the whole thing. It's just they point the stick at you. It's the death stick. Now you're doomed. And you can run. Yeah, it doesn't mean you're going to die right that second. You can run from the death stick. But they have enforcers that follow you. But the enforcers don't do anything, right? They just follow up on that mental impression. They show up and look at you and watch you because they believe it too. And that's kind of it becomes a shared idea. Yeah? A group servitor, if you will, that facilitates this person dying. Because, I mean, clearly there is magic at play here. I'm not saying there's no magic at play. If the spiritual leader of a village that's been going on for generations has a type of punishment with a stick that he points at you and you're going to die, that's magic. If you die, that's magic. But there's also a lot of nocebo going on there. So there is psychology, science involved, even in that, with the most powerful magics. There are a few other things that are like that. One that I know, for example, is gopher dust. Okay? Now, there are lots of recipes online, all over the place, about how to use gopher dust. I just realized it's a little dark in here. Let me see if I can get us a little more light. There goes my mouse, tangled in my foot. Hold on. I don't know. Probably should have just set up all my film equipment. Hi, Ian. So, where were we? I got distracted. What was I talking about? Placebo effect, the Aborigine guys that point the stick and it kills people. I was in the middle of a tirade. Now I totally forgot what I was saying. See, this is going to be one of the problems with me being live. You're going to find out just how crazy I am. So, placebo effect, nocebo effect. And I was in the middle of something, and then I realized how dark it was, and I cannot remember where I was. There's that anyways, that combination of the two is where true power. Oh, gopher dust. Gopher dust. I'm getting goofy without the gopher dust. Okay, so anyways, there are lots of recipes online for gopher dust. And not a single one of them is the actual recipe. Now, I'm not saying they don't work, right? You get a bunch of habanero powder, cayenne powder, messed up with all that stuff. Can be a very powerful curse. Yeah? But there is a very specific biological agent that is actual goofer dust. There's two different things that you put together, and it's enough of a biological agent that they could prove it in court. Yeah? If you were to give someone actual goofer dust and they ingested it, it will cause the nerve sheathings in the back of their neck to swell up. And it will cause them to start acting goofy. Your head will actually feel like you've been... Well, I believe that I've experienced it in a past life. But you actually feel like your head will start swelling. Well, a good description of the symptoms is the Havana syndrome. I'm sure you've heard of that. It was all over the news for a while there. This idea that there was some sonic weapon Russia was using from Cuba. Yeah, it all started in Cuba. Well, I'm almost positive that some Santero or somebody that works with Palo Mayombe knows the goofer dust recipe and is using it on these people, and it started there at the American Embassy in Cuba. Because if you read the symptoms of what is going on with these people that have experienced this supposed sonic weapon from Russia, those are the exact symptoms of actual goofer dust. And it's powerful enough that I honestly don't feel comfortable just giving out the ingredients, what those two chemicals are that cause this, that create this biological agent. But it's a bacteria, it's very nasty, and if you make proper goofer dust, you have to be very careful with it, because you can get it on yourself. You can accidentally easily get somebody else. It's basically biological warfare. That's why I don't tell people how to use. That's why I don't tell people how to do it, because I don't use it myself. I would have to be in a very dangerous and desperate situation. The site says it causes ocular bleeding. Is that the Havana syndrome? Because I could see it causing that. I don't know how much stock you guys want to put in my past life memory. I did get it verified in this life from someone else that I have the ingredients right. But from my past life memory, I believe that I ingested this stuff once, or was a victim of it. I managed to survive through it, but I remember my entire head swelling up, very much feeling like a warm, hot balloon. I don't know if you've ever had a very intense fever, but there's that same feeling, like in a Pink Floyd song. My hands felt just like two balloons. Yeah? It's kind of how it feels, only it's your whole body. It's crazy. Yes, exactly. It's a live bacterial infection that, well, like I said, I don't really want to say what it is, but it's very nasty. And if you actually get it into you, you're pretty much dead. You're pretty much done. I don't know, these people with the Havana syndrome, I don't think any of them have died. So I might be wrong about it being as fatal as I'm saying. But it certainly sounds like these people have been affected by it. And probably at this point, it's all directly magic. Probably they managed to get a few people with actual goofer dust traps, which is you put a line of the goofer dust somewhere that you know the person is going to cross. And that's a biological agent, yes, but it's magic as well. So you get them to cross through that line, cross the barrier, and that gets things moving. That gets the idea going. And the two things together manage to create the curse. So probably not all these people have even been actually exposed to goofer dust. But I very much think that's where it's coming from. Another example of this, and one that I'm willing to talk about, even though it's quite potent itself, is war water. And war water, it works through, it's sympathetic magic is what it is. But quantum entanglement, sorry, I forgot the magic term, or not the magic term, I forgot the scientific term for a second there. So, we have this idea of quantum entanglement, and that's part of what's going on with war water, because we're able to synthesize blood essentially. Yeah, you got your blood, that's the iron and all the different things in your blood. But in this case, the most important thing is that there's that iron. And what is war water? It's rusty water. It's iron water. So we use this rusty water and then to basically synthesize blood. And then if you can get a sample from the person that you're trying to affect, and for this you would need a DNA sample, like ideally a drop of their own blood, but hair, fingernail clippings, anything like that help, because we are using that DNA, linking it to the ironed water to get an approximation of the person's blood. So then that's where the quantum entanglement begins, is because we have the DNA from their fingernails attaching to this solution that is similar to their own blood. And then from there, you can actually use that war water and add things to it that will begin affecting that person's bloodstream. And this is essentially quantum entanglement, because you make something similar, add the proper agents, and then one can affect the other. What do I think of the idea of microorganisms like that creating coordinated effects via hive mind, and so appearing in a occult paradigm as spirits with will? Well, I mean, I don't use them for attack, but if you've seen my yeast servitor minions, that's a big part of what's going on there. It turns out, as I discussed earlier in this very same video, I was actually growing something that was going to be a much larger structure, and we're going to be sharing that sigil. But that's very much where it started, is I had all these microorganisms that I was giving a hive mind through this minion servitor sigil. So yes, I do think that could be a factor. I do think that can have an effect. And I have seen my yeast minions do some cool things already. So now that they're going to be shared with everybody else, yeah, that's one of the things I mentioned earlier in the video. We are going to be, that's the next step in the S1 project, is my servitor minion sigil, which must have something with it on around here. That's kind of funny. It's everywhere, and I can't see a copy of it. But it's the one that's a circle with a little circle with another little circle on top. It's all over my aquariums, but I'd have to pick up a whole aquarium. I'd have to like turn you around to pick up a whole aquarium. You've seen the sigil in the past. When I do the video, I'll show it. It's just like a curlicue. It's on my yeast minions and stuff. But I thought it was just for my altar. That's where it started. Raising up a servitor on my altar. And then sourdough yeast practically built an empire during the beginning months of the pandemic. Yes, that's true. A lot of people did that. So we're going to be taking up on that. Uh-oh, we got a one of them guys. One of these people. Hide user. Okay, remove. I'm not quite sure how to get rid of these guys. Hide user on this channel. This user's messages will be hidden. Okay, and then I can probably report it as spam somewhere. No, can't from here report it as spam. But, oh, here we go. Wait a minute, let me make sure I got him and not accidentally one of you guys. Oh, there we go, report. Unwanted commercial content or spam. Now we don't need people sending us to go to their campsites or whatever was going on there. Oh, thanks, Carlsor. Yes, we got invaded, but we took care of that already. Okay, yeah, I've been getting a few of those lately. I don't know what that's about. Well, I guess I do. It's obviously for some kind of porn site. Keep this up, you're gonna get a yeast infection. They just might. They just might. But yeah, so we're going to be sharing that. I'm going to be sharing that sigil with everyone in the future. We're all going to be using that for. I think we'll be using that in place of the S1 sigil. I need to get some confirmation from that from the collective, as we're going to be called them. That's another thing that we need to talk about here. Um, the Horde. I will no longer be referring to the Horde as the Horde. I want to be more uh, accurate in the words that I use. So we're going to be referring to them as the Cosmic Collective. That is a better term. Horde implies it's a raiding party. You got some Khan at the top leading everything. You know, you got your Genghis Khan. It's not like that. More like some kind of like, uh, what would you want to call it? Like a galactic union interlocking many different realities, like a shared communication through a bunch of realities. I mean, more anarchist in nature, if you want to call it that, because there's definitely not anybody that's the leader. Now that I understand it more properly, I have considered using ants, Ian. Have I ever considered using regular ants like I did the Daphnia? I have. I haven't gotten to it yet. I worry they're a little more complex and that there is already a hive mind in operation there. So I think in order to do that, you'd probably need to have a brand new queen. I'd probably need to be the I'd probably need to be involved in the process of the actual birthing of that queen. So you'd have to be like 2 generations in, probably. Plus, you probably have to have some ants you were affecting, and then by the time like I don't know when a queen ant gives birth to another ant. Obviously, you have to find out how that works out. Exactly how another queen gets born instead of a worker, and be involved in that process in order to affect the original hive mind, I think. Yeah, that's another thing about the ants. I'm not great at containing things. I could totally see if I had an ant colony, I could totally see them getting loose, and the next thing you know, the ant colony is like living in one of my walls rather than in its container. That sounds like the kind of thing that would happen to me. And yeah, I do think I do think this is a better branding, the Cosmic Collective. The other term I thought of using was Galactic Union, but like I said in a post on the guild, um, I don't know if like Galactic Union sounds more Star Trek, and Cosmic Collective sounds kind of New Age. I had trouble deciding between the two. Either one would be probably a good way to put it. I don't know. Cosmic Collective, I guess because it's 2 C's is why I picked that one. I have no real explanation for that. Oh yeah, she probably does give out some kind of pheromone signals, the queen. She probably does give out some kind of signals. Well, probably, yeah, she probably does, but she'd be the one that would make the decision as well. So there must be something happens in the colony, or maybe she feels like she's getting old. Maybe that's what it is. That's probably what it is the queen, when she starts, because she must have a life cycle. I'm sure she's not immortal. That must be when they make a new queen, is when she starts feeling like, oh, I'm going to die soon. I better give birth to a new queen, who I believe then turns around and kills her. Cosmic Anarchist sounds pretty cool. Indeed, it does. And like I said, I mean, I don't know how else to explain them. I don't know how else to explain their political structure, but total anarchist in the original sense of the word. Not this ANCAP bogus stuff going on now, but the idea that we should all be voting. A collective. Yeah, an actual collective. Anyone involved in a situation are the people that should have a say in it. But now that I'm in that much contact with them, speaking of which, I'm going to try to avoid politics on this channel still. But my anarchist nature, now that I know for sure that they are anarchists as well, basically, my anarchist nature is probably going to be front and forward, front and center a little more than it was before. And in fact, I'm probably going to be talking about Alexander Dugin soon. Yeah, that could be it too, Felix. I really don't know. I really don't know what causes what causes that triggers them to to create a new queen. I do know that can happen in bees. What you just said about if there is a potential for a new hive that they come out. I do know that can happen in bees. They can, if they think that there's room for a new hive, they will give a new queen, and then I think actually the old one leaves and leaves the new queen in the old hive. I don't know. I'm not a bee. I'm not a bee herder either. Yeah. Okay. So that is a good point. That could that could help us induce that second queen. If I do it, I am more. Did I say bee herder? Sounds like something I would say. Beekeeper. Actually, one of the admins of the Sorcerers Guild is a beekeeper. So if I was ever to actually do this, I'd be more likely to do it with bees than ants. Yeah, I probably won't ever do it with ants, but bees, that might happen. I have really been into the idea of being a bee herder. I've been thinking about it for quite a while. I have someone that would actually answer questions and help me with that. Like if I decided to do that, she would help me with questions. Help me I'd have a professional on call to ask questions to, which would be very useful for that. And we have honey. There's a lot of potential with bees to work with them in the spellcraft. So we might do that if we ever get actual land for the guild. Well, for sure, if we get guild land, there will be beehives on it, and we'll start working with that because we can create our own candle. Exactly, it'd be very lucrative. So there'd be a lot of money. There's a lot of money that could be made there as well. But I got distracted. Candles, beeswax candles. That's one of the biggest things for me with the bees is wax. It'd be fascinating to have these bees that were actually raised and had a collective mind that they are making wax for candles for spell work. Yeah, as they're making the wax, and then we melt that wax down to make the candles. That would be so cool. That would be awesome. So someday we will try that with bees. But unfortunately, today is not that day. Now, I think we've determined I'm not going to get demonetized for smoking on these videos. I mean, I don't have any commercials up anyways. I don't think they do demonetize you if you don't have any commercials on it. So yeah, I think that's okay. I don't think I'm going to get demonetized for that. Where were we? Yes, that would be custom magic wax would be very cool. And if we got to the point where we had several hives, we could even get it to where like, okay, you guys are making candles for prosperities. You guys are making wax for candles for prosperity spells. And this hive, you're making wax for candles for healing spells, and on and on. We could have all kinds of different hives creating wax for different purposes. It'd be awesome. So I have a lot of thoughts on that. This idea of I very much want the guild to have property. Oh, good. You're gonna take us with us. I was worried you were gonna leave us, Felix. But yeah, they have quite a few ideas on that, and we have this idea that I've talked about before. Oh yeah, mead. We could definitely make mead. I have there's a learning curve there though, because honey in itself is an antibiotic. That is a good way to accidentally kill your yeast with the honey. So you have to boil the honey first if you're gonna make mead or anything like that. Because I've tried to put it in my hard cider. I like to make hard cider, which is I've discussed in some of these. I stutter sometimes. That's something you guys don't have to see in the recorded videos either, is my stuttering, which still happens some. Okay, so anyways, what was I saying? I like to make hard cider. And so one of the first times I put honey in that, I didn't know it was an antibiotic. And I made this cider and I did all this stuff, and then I put a bunch of honey in it and I locked it away for 3 months, opened it up. I had some really yummy apple juice. Because this honey not only did it kill the antibiotic, it's also a preservative. It tasted pretty much the same as it did the day I got in there. Except for, it had time to absorb all the flavors. Got all this cinnamon and raisins. And yeah, it was pretty good apple juice. Certainly not hard cider, though. But, I forget what my point was there, except for that, yeah, we can definitely make mead. Once we have land, we would be having these we would have guild gatherings, and we'd be drinking that at these events. But that's in the future. Oh, that's what I was getting at. The land, which we will have someday. Someday there will be a guild headquarters, one way or another. I've talked in the videos a lot about this idea of haunting. Yeah, it was one of my most popular videos recently, was how to survive death by haunting your house, or whatever the title was, something along those lines. That is very much the idea of what the guild land will be for. When we get to that point, I hope to haunt the guild lodge after my death. But I think I discussed that a little bit. I think I discussed that a little bit in that video. We will we'll get to that more as time goes on. We have lots of time until I'm haunting anything. Hopefully, yeah. I certainly have no plans of becoming a ghost anytime soon. Anyways, what else is there to talk about? Oh, my stuttering. You're going to be hearing that from time to time in these live videos. I used to be a lot worse. It's actually why I have a tongue ring. Is because of my ADD. And those of you that talk to me on Facebook, you've seen it in my typing. Yes, a home after death, indeed. But also so I can keep working with the guild. But anyways, you've seen it in my typing. My fingers do not move as fast as my brain does because of my ADHD. At least that's what I blame it on. And my tongue was the same way. So the way I type, I used to talk like that. And a little bit before I turned 18, I was hanging out with a friend of mine. Or actually, I was at school, and a friend of mine comes up, and I'm like, "Hey, how's it going?" He's like, "Oh, I'm doing pretty good, but I just got my tongue pierced." I'm like, "Oh yeah," and he's like, "Yeah, I had to learn to talk all over again, because he's stuttering on his tongue ring, what do you want to? He's talking over this mushed up tongue with his tongue ring," and I was like, "Well, that's what I need to do. I need to learn to talk all over again." So I went and I got my tongue pierced. And it totally worked. Yeah? I mean, I'm surprised I'm not stuttering a little bit now because I've thought about it. And it's another one of the things that we talked about earlier, the placebo effect. I'm sure there's not much medical basis, right, for why me piercing my tongue helped me to stop stuttering. But me getting my tongue pierced convinced me that it would help me to stop stuttering, and so it did. And if you hear the way that I'm speaking a little more precisely now, more clearly enunciating my words, that's exactly why. It's because I've thought about the stuttering now. And if I'm not careful, I'm gonna start, even though the tongue ring. And yeah, it worked. It worked like a charm. It's kind of the same thing with like my cutting off the tail off the back of my head. There's a big sense memory there. That's something that changed a moment. Thank you, Ian. He almost made me shoot cranberry juice out of my nose. but thank you. He said, you're pretty eloquent when you can remember what you were discussing. That's why it took me a while to do these live videos. We're having fun, though. I'm enjoying this. So we're definitely going to keep doing this every Sunday. But, yeah. I'm a little more rambly in person than I am on the videos. Yeah, I had the tail on the back of my head for a long time there. Carlzor, I guess is how I'm going to pronounce your name. When I first shaved my head, you're talking about the feeling of having hair. I had long hair my whole life. When I first shaved my head, oof, that was the worst feeling ever. Going in the shower and going like that, and there was nothing there but that little tail that I had in the back forever. Oof. I did not enjoy going bald. But, I mean, it is what it is. I like doing this, as you've all seen. Now that I am bald, I have a big habit of doing that. I touch my head a lot. Exactly. That's what I was getting at. Was it creates muscle memory. It's a time of moving from one spot into the next. So I was almost a paradigm shift there with the tongue ring. But the same with with cutting the tail off the back of my head. It's something that I'm going to remember. There was a significant change from that moment forward. It's not something I can ignore. And now every day when I shower, I'm shaving a part that I wasn't before. I mean, just to keep that going, I don't know what'll happen with the sides of my head. I'm liable to just let all that grow in. I won't be shaving anything but that one spot for a while. Just to keep the memory going. I don't know. As far as the fashion of my head, I'd probably do a bihawk. I mean, it looks okay right now. Just looks like I have a regular haircut with a bald in the middle. When it gets a little bit longer, I can go make it poke out. Be like what was that band from back when we were kids? Well, I don't know the age. I have a tendency to assume the people I'm talking to are the same age as me. I know a few of you are around my age. Prodigy. That was that guy's. That was the name of the band. Prodigy. That guy had the bihawk for that Firestarter video. Anyways, I don't know. You guys got any questions for me? I'm kind of run out of stuff to say at this point. Not much more rambling I have to do. We'll put out another video on Wednesday. All right. You know, Brian, if that's something that I actually want to bring up, I just finished a anthology of my well, it's mostly short stories, poems. It's got a couple essays. If you guys want me to read some of those poems or something, we could do that. Could read some of the stories from my book. It's actually there's part of it that's the beginning part of a novel. I do. I'm going to be like I said, I'm going to be publishing a book with a copy of several of my poems and short stories. Well, I'd like to have it published now, but Amazon's fighting with me. It'll be through Amazon, the same as the Sorcerer's Shadow. But if you look through my videos, Summer, there actually are some. I have a few poems recorded there as well that I've already recorded. Yeah, we will. I have the proof copy coming soon of the book that I just published. That could be fun. We could read some of those. I've done a little bit of that. I'm not very happy with my performance with those, but I've read one of my short stories. If you look up "Nothing Happened" in my videos, it's me reading a short story, and I also definitely did a poem, "The Hounds," and I did that one because that is that poem is not only it's not only a poem that I wrote, but it's actually part of a summoning spell, and that's one thing we're gonna need to talk about more in the future is the hounds, because that is something that is going to be a larger aspect to our reality now that the bridge is actually here. Yeah, the collective is here. The collective has a presence here. That means the hounds have come as well. And if you read the video, if you listen to that poem, you'll see what I'm talking about. And what that is well, we've got this collective that I just talked about, all these different realities that are interconnected of a like-minded thing. The hounds are kind of the same thing, but they're the remnants of victims, if you want to call it that. The poem describes it much better than I can, but it's a form of retribution for those that harm the weak. It's a form of retribution to the cruel. Anyways, the poem exists. I will read it again. I don't really want to get into that now. We will be discussing that at some point because it's important that we be aware. If we're aware of the collective, we also need to be aware of, well, of that. Not that I think any of my viewers would be in danger for that, but also we can utilize that. We can actually summon the hounds. Like I said, it is a summoning spell. But we'll get into that when we do. Not today. What do you do when you don't have the oomph to get up and actually do magic? Well, depends on what you mean by the oomph. If you mean like my chi is low, well then I just work on it. I mean, sometimes you've got to build up. Sometimes you don't feel as strong as other times if I really feel like I need to cast. But really, monster energy. I mean, yeah, if you're talking about physical energy, those types of things will help. Actual stimulants. Not for me with the ADD. If I take a monster, I'm either gonna take. So see, there shows the difference in how I think of a monster. To me, that's taking something. That's not just doing a drink. I drink a monster or anything like that. It's like pulling a handle on a slot machine. I can fall asleep. I can go completely berserk with energy. I can go back and forth. Like them 5-hour energy drinks. Oh my gosh. Oh no. I'll never do that again. That was the craziest roller coaster of my life. Up, down. Horrible. And the worst part was I took it trying to cure a hangover. Because for me, ginseng is a hangover cure. Like a great one. Because it opens up the blood vessels in your brain. Doesn't really, I mean, it kind of stimulates me, but it really works as a hangover cure. I thought there'd be 5 hours. I had a really bad hangover. I thought there would be ginseng in that 5-hour energy drink. I took it, and oh no. I'll never do that again. Anyways. Yeah, we can jump up and, I mean, I literally just do exercises. Get the energy flowing. Or get that motivation, right? If it's not the physical part of it that you're having trouble with, but the motivation, you want to lean into it. Think about what the thing is that you want to do and just lean into that idea and let yourself get worked up. Yeah, usually if we're going to cast a spell on something, it's something important. So you can get yourself worked up on that idea. Just let yourself dwell on it for a bit. Yeah, necessity is the mother of invention. You know, that wasn't the perfect metaphor for that. But the more we need, the stronger a need is. The stronger we feel that need, the easier it's going to be for us to cast, as long as we're able to let go and not do that lust for results. So that's kind of a double-edged sword there, isn't it? The more we need something, the easier it is to cast it, but then it's going to be harder to let go. And that's why we do the release things with the sigils. We talk a lot about forgetting. I personally don't think that's completely possible. Not especially with something you actually need. You're not going to be able to forget that, oh man, I really need to make my rent this month. You're not going to be able to forget that sigil you just made a couple days ago. What's to help you get your rent if your rent is really needed that bad. You're not going to be able to forget. Trick is not to dwell. Yeah? You're not really going to be able to forget without some extreme action, like, how Austin Sperry used to, make himself, or no, I guess that was Peter Carroll used to make himself pass out, right? That's the one that actually hyperventilated. Well, either way, whichever one it was, like actually making yourself hyperventilate to the point of passing out. But I'm not recommending that. Let's be clear. Don't do that. Not at my recommendation, anyways. I will not be held responsible for anyone purposely hyperventilating themselves. It's not necessary. There are other things to do. That was just an example. Believe high-ranking court magi into believing he could no longer eat. Well, that's interesting. I mean, why not? That's hypnosis at play, right? We were talking about that nocebo effect, and that's what's going on here. It's that same idea. Hypnosis is dealing with those same ideas. I suppose it is, Felix. Yes, forgetfulness does help in these matters. It certainly helps me. Sometimes I'll forget what that was for until the result pops up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I did a thing for that. But that's for small stuff. Yeah, like it'd be awfully hard to forget about if that was the one thing. Like you felt like that was the one hope you had for making your rent that month or something. When it comes to Native American magic sorcery, how does it compare or differ from what you produce? Well, not a lot. Quite frankly, I am the descendant of Netemup. And I actually, well, let me make that clear. I am not a medicine man. My great-grandfather was a medicine man. But there are two words, Medowin and Manitou. Medowin is a medicine man, and a Medowin is herbology, herbalism, stuff like that. I do not have them. I do not have them qualifications. Now, a Manitou is the word that would actually almost directly translate into sorcerer. It means turtle, myth, or mystery, not myth. It means turtle, it means mystery, it means spirit, and it also means magic user, sorcerer. And that's what I was specifically descended down from. So the thing about that is, it is a very personal practice as well. We have to find the ways that resonate with you to make your magic work, because that is how magic works. Yeah, the herbalism, all that type of stuff works on these physical laws that we were talking about earlier, combined with that placebo. And then the others and the Manitou work. And there is some things that you need to know to make things work. But we're dealing with that other end. We're dealing with the convincing, with so like that. That's on the magical level and is actually working on the astral or mental planes. Like the war paint. Yeah, that is something that I was taught a lot about. It's specific, and it's basically sigil work. There's not a whole lot of difference there, except for that you have recorded symbols that intended to have these meanings. But the idea is when you're painting them, when you are adding them, if you are painting them on someone or painting them to yourself, is to get into that state of believing. Yeah, this is something to give you courage. Especially that one. Yeah, if you're creating courage with your paint, that is a good way. Well, obviously you're going to have to believe in it. That's all that's really required. The more you believe in it, the more courage it's going to give you. Of course, there are other sigils that are used for different things, but it's basically the same thing. War paint is just putting sigils on your face. Anyways, So to me, there's not a lot of difference. What I do is what a Manitou does. Um, yeah, they can, or down up and or along the shaft of the arrow is more where I was taught with those types of things. Um, I honestly like as far as traditionally, I wasn't ever told anything about putting marks on the arrow. There's the blood thing. Cut yourself, put a little bit of the blood. No, I am Ojibwe. Specifically, I am Sons of the Three Fires Ojibwe, also known as the Mississauga. But that's like genetically, frankly, not a whole lot. Descendancy. I mean, that depends on how you want to look at that, right? I am a direct descendant of Nedamup, the Manitou of the Swan River Valley Ojibwe. Genetically, well, you can see from the color of my skin, right? I'm not a whole lot of I don't have a whole lot of Ojibwe blood. So genetically, I'm only a small part. Descendant, I am a direct descendant, and I have information passed down to me. My great grandfather said that I was going to be the next Manitou. Died before I was born, so he didn't have a lot of time to pass that information on to me directly. So it's like, I guess, third hand. I had like stuff given to my grandmother told me. I have stuff that my dad told me. All of it like, well, this is something he wanted you to know. But he said, like, long before I was born, I told my dad, your firstborn son's going to be the next Manitou. Here I am, born with 2 placentas, whole 9 yards. Anyways, I don't want to get it. I'm feeling like I'm getting boastful now. Let's not get onto that. My phone is going to die soon. I started out at 100%, and I didn't plug it in because I was most part of that was to see how long I could do this. And we have been on for 1 hour and 7 minutes, and my phone is at like I think it said it was at, I don't know, like 15%. So I'm gonna be getting off here in a little while. Not just yet. Don't abandon me just yet. I'm enjoying this. We're definitely gonna keep doing this. I think sitting down here works out better than going for a walk because I can see the screen. I can see your guys' questions a lot better. When I'm going for a walk, it's hard for me to keep track of those. So we might be changing the name of this playlist because, well, I don't think we're going to be walking. I think we're going to be doing this maybe sitting at a fire somewhere. Maybe we'll start doing it as a camping thing. Anyways, we will be back next Sunday evening. I will try to be around 6:30, 7 o'clock Mountain Time, which is my time zone. So a little bit earlier than we did today. But I don't know. Somewhere around the same time. Evening to late night. Next Sunday I will be on. We will be doing this again. I will be having a regular episode coming out Wednesday. We're going to try and keep with that schedule for now. Wednesday for episodes. Sunday to come out live. And, yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't have a lot more to say at this point. I don't see a whole lot of questions. If you guys have anything else you want to ask about before we go, I'm probably at like 12% battery life, so it's not going to be much longer before I do have to go. But now we know how long these are going to be. We'll figure about an hour. I'll go live. Maybe at some point I'll get some better equipment for going live. Because for now we're just using my cell phone. Yeah, I think that's going to be it, guys. I will try to stop using that. Guys and dude. Those are gendered terms that I have a hard time not using. Yeah? I don't mean it in any phobic sense at all. It's just something that I say a lot. I am definitely an ally. If I haven't made that clear on this channel, most definitely an ally. Anyways, that's gonna be it for this episode, I think. It was fun hanging out with you all. We'll do it again next Sunday. But until next time, bright blessings and an interesting fate. This has been Sorcerer Tal. Okay, that's it. We're out of here.